what really in the 3D training, what was it that most impressed me or most, yeah, didn't expect? Man, the psychology part, that value blew me out of the water because it made me look at the creator of this training and I thought, man, this person really knows what they're doing. And I knew it wasn't just their own, sort of like, this is how the brain works. They actually went and did their research. I felt like having an understanding of these 4 personality types that you'll see again and again in your chair, not only how to identify them, but just get into their head a little bit and figure out how it is you're going to, again, how are you going to elevate their experience? It may be something as simple as somebody's fears and anxieties from being traumatized from being in the chair. I've seen plenty of those over the years, and I'm real good with those. I know how to I can see trauma. I can spot it coming through the door. I see their shoulders or up their ears, and then they sit down, and you're like, "So, what's going on?" And then the first thing I do is I go, "So, what happened when you were 9?" And they're like, "So my mom took me to get my hair cut, and then I just went to trim, and then I ended up with a Dorothy Hamill." And I'm like, "Alright, thanks for sharing." And then we go from there. And so I've always been very aware of what goes on in someone's head, especially when I need to. For the most part, people sit down, maybe you're dealing with a skeptic, maybe you're dealing with somebody who's like, "Do whatever you want to do." Maybe you're dealing with someone who's like, has really unrealistic expectations. There's some kind of weird neuroses going on or whatever. But when you are dealing with somebody that just needs their hand held a little bit because they have trust issues and they're sitting in your chair for the very first time, boom, I can get into that, no problem. But to see that in 3D Me kind of blew me away because I thought, that's not what I expected. I was never in beauty school, nor ever in my years as an apprentice. I was always the one getting all psych about it. My clients call me a hairapist. They know they're gonna come in, they know we're gonna like, "Okay, yeah, what are we doing? Okay, blah, blah." And then boom, we get into it, and they're just updating me on what's going on? So that's something that I didn't expect to see because I thought I've always seen that it's been overlooked. And why I love that it's there is because I feel like it took everything that I was doing over the years that I was kind of an outlier, a little bit of a everybody else was busy selling products, whereas I was connecting with my clients. I cared about them deeply and thus they cared about me. And so there was that. But that also left out so much. For example, because I was dealing with so much anxiety starting out in the business, because I didn't have all of these extra tools in my toolbox in order to give the client what they needed, I relied so much on developing a relationship with the client. The client was getting some therapy in the chair, but they weren't necessarily getting what they came there for. And so I feel like 3D Me allows me to employ psychology and use that to, again, elevate the experience to what it really is about, which is their hair. So it's like a merging of the 2. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that, and I thought to myself 'cause I tried to get into the head of the person who developed this system, and I'm like, "What books do they read? How much time do they spend reading? There's some brain science in here. What's going on?" Anyway, I'm really glad you asked that question because I think being me, kind of I'm a little bit of a nerd about that kind of stuff. I just thought to me and it came early enough in the training, in the 3D Me content, it came early enough that I thought, "Oh, I see what this is about." And that was yeah, again, it exceeded my expectations. I mean, I can't imagine being, say, 5 years out from beauty school as a hairdresser behind the chair, and each person that walks through the door you just wash, rinse, and repeat. You don't actually know how to look beyond the surface. You don't know how to go, "Oh, okay, I see what I'm dealing with here," and be able to speak to that part of their personality. And when and if you can do that, then everybody wins. And I don't think while I did, because I am an observer and I do have some skills in that area, my career would have looked very different had that been part of my training so that I wasn't forgetting about all the other stuff and focusing on the one area which I did have a strength at. So it felt like, you know what it felt like? It felt like I was like, "Oh," and this is what it felt like. "Oh, I knew all along that it was about what's going on in the head." And it felt like, it felt like, what's the word? It felt like, yeah, I guess I expected that I was going to be learning how to find out, what's going on with the client. Okay, yeah, great. And then, of course, I would learn that it would be about tools and it would be about scalp health and some other areas that I did not expect. But when the psychology was in there, I thought, I've found my home. I knew I was in the right place. And I don't know. Yeah, the psychology, I still want to know more. I would love to interview the developer of 3D and be like, hey, where'd you get all that stuff? Like, do you have background in psychology or, whose books did you read? Because that stuff's important to me. It's really important to me. So when I saw that it was there, I knew that I was on the right path to confirming and validating that I was going to be returning to my career with information that would give me the sense of growth and like I was re-entering. I don't wanna say born again, rebirth, but there was an aspect of like, I can be new again. I can be new again. After 28 years doing the same job, like, I can be new again. Yeah. So, yeah, new again.